Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello. Last day we discussed about the housing strategy for the existing built up area of a city and focusing more on the core city of the housing. Today we will discuss a different part of the city housing, that is the housing for the new areas, how we can strategize the new areas for our desired objective. So, as a part of the discussion which we had last day, we mentioned that for the old city or the core city housing or the already built up areas of the housing, we use concept of dedensification, and we use different kind of development controls including FAR. So, we can use the variable FARs and we can incentivize the desired development by using different tools and techniques like tax exemption, like the differential FAR, like the exemption of the fees and the different kind of user charge, those kind of things are done. And this dedensification basically depends on the holding capacity of this of the area of the city, the built up areas of the city in terms of their infrastructure. So, more the infrastructure development possibility or augmentation possibility, more its holding capacity, more the density can be allowed. So, based on the discussion we told that few terms also we mentioned like renewal and the conservation. So, either we augment the infrastructure, redensify, we go for more denser development and we renew the area with new infrastructure, or we can and in addition to that we can conserve some of the core city of the housing areas, which is basically depicting the tradition of our culture or the city, or maybe it has evolved through the ages with the city's history. So, those kind of strategy could be required for the existing built up areas of the city. Now, we will go to the discussion on the next part, which is the next part is consisting the housing for the new areas. So, new areas of the housing is different than the housing in the core city area. So, in the new areas of the housing, the first element which comes in our mind is the land availability. In the housing strategy discussion, we already discussed that the land availability exercise is very important. Now, after establishing the fact that which are the land available and which are land is not available, the next part is that how we can assemble the land. Now, in the land assembly discussion we discussed that either we can go for acquisition, we can acquire the land if it is required, or we can go for private public partnership where the private party they can purchase the land directly, or we can we do not acquire or we do not go for private public partnership, we just prescribe the desired FAR and the desired networks, the people and the controls. And third could be that the land assembly using different techniques of land readjustment, where we take the land for some time, we develop the land, that means we provide the infrastructure and give back the land to the owner. So, we take the raw land, we develop it, we return back the developed land with the renewed infrastructure. Those kind of land assembly techniques could be exercised in any city. So, after the land assembly we have the land with our hand, some substantial land will be available. So, next part will be to decide that what kind of housing is required. So, based on the land the strategy document, already we have done the strategy document. So, it is clearly written that which part is going to be what kind of housing typology will come in which areas. So, based on that what kind of whether it is a predominantly group housing or plotted housing, based on that what we do is a land subdivision. So, land subdivision exercise is a basically exercise where we subdivide the land with the concept of the group housing and the plotted housing. So there could be bigger land, there could be smaller land parcel or the medium land parcel, but the land pockets, the land pockets or the size of the land plots are very important. So in a city basically we have these are already built up areas, and we are talking about the areas beyond it, which is basically going to be new housing areas. And as per the housing strategy, the major land pockets are already identified as different pockets. For example, these are going to be say cooperative housing, these are going to be okay, or rental housing, or institutional housing, or simply group housing, or plotted housing. So after identification of all those pockets, we have to take the decision that how we can subdivide the land. So subdivision of the land, so this is a very big chunks of the land. We have to go beyond, we have to go further in further detail, so that we can develop the land parcel in a better way to develop the land like this. So we can go even further detailing with smaller parcel of the land, so that each and every parcel of the land can be given to some developer, and developer can take it as a plot and develop a housing project. So this land subdivision exercise is very important at this stage. So land subdivision exercise is basically the scientific method by which we subdivide a bigger chunk of the land into smaller pieces of plots, and the plots for the further development. Then after that we can use the contemporary concept like the transit oriented development, the compact city, smart city, non motorized transportation, all the concept while we make the land subdivision. Like some of the pockets could be having some different concept. So maintaining the overall theory, overall concept and the vision of the city development plan and housing strategy, those kind of, if any concepts are prevailing there, we could integrate those kind of concept at the land subdivision also. Then we do the investment and the development strategy. What kind of investment and development require for each parcel of the land, institutional housing, group housing, plotted housing, or cooperative housing, or rental housing, what kind of housing will come, and then definitely how we dispose them, dispose the land parcel to the market. One approach of the disposal of the land is that you dispose them through a common transparent lottering process, where you just advertise the availability of the land to the common people or to the private developer and dispose them. Another approach could be that you just bid the, you just open for you just call a open tender or bidding for the land, and whoever is the highest bidder, that you allot that land to the highest bidder. So usually the bigger land or the commercial land or the where major investment is possible and the private developers land, those are given for the bidding and the open tendering process. Otherwise the small land parcel, which is basically for the small plots and the plotted housing, those are given through the open lottery system, transparent advertisement to the common people, and based on the application, based on the response, a lottery is conducted, and on that basis the land is disposed. And not only that, with the disposal mechanism, another very important part is the pricing mechanism. So after the land subdivision, you have various kinds of plots, size of plots of land for each economic group. For example, there could be lands for higher income group, middle income group, and low income group. So what kind of pricing mechanism will be there? Will it be the uniform land pricing, or there will be some differential land pricing for HIG, MIG and LIG? So those kind of concept need to be taken care of at the land disposal mechanism. Usually some kind of cross subsidy could be taken out, so that some additional amount of pricing could be there for the HIG, and that could be leveraged to the lower income group and economically weaker section for any plot. For group housing project, the group housing could be given to the developer with the mandate of the percentage of the economic group as a mandate to develop the mixed housing, mixed group housing. So, those kind of modalities is important at the land disposal mechanism, and not only at the end, it should be considered at the beginning when we do the land subdivision, because land subdivision this part I will discuss in greater detail. So, land subdivision, at the time of land subdivision you have the everything in your mind, that how the land will be disposed, and then how we will check the balance of the overall development. So, this is the fundamental stages of the housing development for the new areas. After that we need to discuss few element of the land subdivision, that how we actually divide the land, bigger parcel of the land into small pieces of land, so that small pieces of lands are utilized by the developer or the small developer. The first principle of the land subdivision is the levels of planning. Now, we have told you that after the housing strategy, we have earmarked all the bigger land chunks as cooperative housing, as rental housing, as institutional housing or group housing or plotted housing. Now, this is a very big areas. As per the master plan and the housing strategy, the total population and density will be written. For example, this land chunk could be there for 300 hectare and density could be say 800 per hectare, and as per the housing strategy you have made, it is also mentioned that this 800 per hectare of in a total area of 300 will be consisting of HIG, MIG, LIG and EWS in the proportion of 50%, 30% and 20%. So, this is given to you as a in the housing strategy exercise. So, how do you allocate the land here, the bigger land here, so that ultimately we can achieve this proportion, we can achieve the overall density of this particular gross area and within the limited area given to us. So, that is very important in this stage. So, one very important concept in the whole land subdivision is the levels of planning. So, there are various levels of planning. Which will dictate or which will determine the size of the plot or the shape of the plot. So, one of the major very important is the how we define neighborhood. So, neighborhood is the unit of the housing development basically. So, by and large one neighborhood is determined by a community or a settlement who shares a common facility. In India, the traditional cities, you have seen in the traditional cities that the elements, the names like mahalla or the names like para or mahalla or different names or local names are there, which is nothing but the neighborhood in our Indian cities. So, Indian cities are having the unit of the various units. So, it may be having different population. For example, one neighborhood could have a 4,000 population or 5,000 or even more like 25,000. So, basically it is determined by the sharing common facility at the now even the sharing the common facility in terms of like the schools or health facility or community center, it can be at the various level. I tell you an example that in a housing cluster, if there are a housing cluster of a building cluster, there could be an internal courtyard which can be utilized as a community function or community area. So, this cannot be called as a neighborhood. So, we call this kind of arrangement as a cluster. So, cluster is basically a combination of various blocks and the buildings with some common facilities. By and large it is the community facilities, it can be a small play area, it can be a courtyard. So, this is one cluster, it can be a the cluster of say 10 house or cluster of 15 house or 20 house, the population could be 1000 even less. So, more or less this kind of population can be catered by one cluster. So, one cluster basically gives you a mandate to have one at least one community place where the children can play. So, this kind of cluster can form multiple numbers of cluster can form one neighborhood. So, basically neighborhood is equivalent to so multiple clusters. So, multiple clusters make a neighborhood. So, neighborhood is nothing but a population of 4000 to it can be even bigger like 25,000. So, neighborhood basically enjoys a common playground of the older children and some other facilities like say primary school or commercial facility. So, first in these levels of planning, the immediate your first element in this planning is your own house, it can be plotted or it can be group housing also. Then is your cluster. So, cluster is defined by a common facility around a tot lot or play area, population ranging from 1000, and then we have the neighborhood. So, for the neighborhood we can have the population of anything between 5000 to 25,000, and then we have the sectors which are bigger than the neighborhood. It can have the population of 25,000 to 50,000. So, one cluster is defined by using a common tot lot or the community area, whereas one neighborhood is defined by using one playground for the older children, then your primary school, one primary school and commercial area. Whereas one sector will be determined by its higher secondary school, higher level of green park and few more facilities like say health facilities and commercial facilities. So, from the smaller, so from small to higher level of facility we design for the land subdivision. Now, in a typical neighborhood, typical area, if you want to develop like say sectors, say sectors having 25,000. So, if your density is 800, so accordingly you can calculate the land area per sector and you can distribute the sectors over the area suitably using your area. Now, this is a method where you have to have the spatial planning and design aptitude by which you can make permutation, combination and few more exercise, and you can connect the whole area with road network. Now, making the internal road network of artery this collector road and local road is essential. We have discussed about this road network and the road and transportation when we discuss the infrastructure for the housing development. So, those discussion can be recalled, and the collector road having the width of 18 meter to the 20 or 24 meter and the local road having the width of 10 meter to 12 meter can be utilized to differentiate or to divide the two side by side plot, and this can be given like one sector, another sector like that, and each sector can be developed separately by individual development or developer or agency. So, this is how we do the land subdivision, whereas if we go for a plotted housing, the land subdivision itself become much more complicated and much more scientific, because here maybe the number of plots are maybe very few, because plots are very big in terms of the size and the shape, because it is a group housing plot. But here if the plotted housing is done, the land subdivision will be much more. So, we have to develop each sector by dividing it into various neighborhood with some common facility, and each neighborhood will be having several local road and small plots. I will show some examples so that you can understand in a better way. So, this is the science of dividing any bigger plot into smaller plot. So, based on the typology which is given or dictated in the development plan or the housing strategy, we make the land subdivision accordingly for group housing or the plotted housing or any other housing. The second part is of the land subdivision is the access road. We told about the access road. So, access road for the bigger plots will be wider, and the smaller plots will be lesser. So, bigger plot, wider road, smaller plot, narrow road. That is the fundamental approach we should take for land subdivision using the different kind of roads. The third part is intended development, whether it is a group housing or plotted housing or rental housing or cooperative housing. The requirement for the cooperative housing is different than the group housing, because the size of the cooperative housing may be different. So, we will have a different discussion on the cooperative housing, but for today you can take a note that for cooperative housing we have to design the plot, we have to design the plot in such a way so that each and every cooperative can stay there, can build their house within that plot size and the shape. So, to determine the plot size and shape, we have to have a cross calculation of the possible architectural layout of the housing for that particular user group or particular number of the user group. For example, in a cooperative housing, if you have say 10 members cooperative or 20 member cooperative. So, for that particular group, say MIG, middle income group, you have to calculate that how much area will be required for a MIG group for 20 numbers or 10 numbers. So, based on that you have to have a calculation of the architectural exercise, and then you can determine the plot size. So, that why we are taking all this trouble to make the to strengthening the size and shape of the plot in a plot subdivision exercise, because we are trying to optimize the usage of the land. We cannot waste the land anymore. So, that is why we are taking utmost care in each and every stages of the land subdivision, so that we can stop the wastage of the land at any stage. Then we have the size and shape of the plots. Usually the size and shape of the plots are considered as a rectangle like this. Where the access road is given at the narrower side. So, this is the narrower side and this is the wider side. So, if you depict this as a x and y, so x should be more than or equal to at least 1.5 y. So, why we are doing this? Because we are doing this to optimize the usage of the land, so that if we do the reverse one, that means if we provide the plot like this, number one, we have to give the bigger frontage to the plot, more number of roads will be required, more amount of road investment will be required, and secondly, when we make the building, the back open space or the rear open space or the setback is bigger than the side open space usually. So, here if you make a building, the back open space will be, much of the back open space will be wasted. So, that is why this is the optimal situation where we are reducing the road frontage and the back open space, where we are keeping the back open space for the sewerage and the sanitation purpose and for the laying out of the service pipelines and also for the light and ventilation. But in the case of the corner plots, like in corner plots, definitely there could be two roads having corners like this. So, this kind of mechanism we do where the plot configuration size and shape is considered, and for the size, as I told earlier, that the size depends on the how much people and how much unit to be accommodated in that particular plot, so that we can maintain the common FAR of every plot, so that after construction of the every plot they can achieve maximum FAR, so that it can serve all the people required to be accommodated. If it is a 10 member cooperative, or it is a 20 member cooperative, or 40 members cooperative, the land size will vary accordingly and proportionally. That is the essence of the land subdivision. Then next point is the build form and the urban design. Then how we are considering the build form over the whole area. I will show some picture, you will understand the desired build form. The distribution of the facility. The facilities also can be distributed in the at the level of planning. We told that at the house level some facilities are given, at the cluster level some few other facilities are given, at the neighborhood level few other facilities are given, and at the sector level some bigger facilities are given. So, facilities are given at various levels, and these levels of plannings are defined with the facilities. Now, with this discussion let us see some of the example that how it does it look like. In this example you can see that 4 neighborhoods are there. These are 4 neighborhoods having common facilities here, and you can see the plots, how the intricate detailing of the plots are done. Let us take the second example. Here also you can see this is the major roads going there, and these are the internal roads, and you can see that bigger lands, the group housing lands are here. These are the group housing lands, these are the group housing lands. So, group housing lands are bigger. So, bigger land placed in the side of the bigger roads, so that they can get the maximum advantage, whereas the smaller plots, these are the smaller plots inside at the junction or at the side of the smaller local roads. You can find that further smaller plots are there. Not only that, this is now you can see these are the plots having the community facilities, these are the facilities having the sector level, and this is the facility at the neighborhood level. Here we can find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 and 8. This is one very small neighborhood. So, 8 neighborhood consisting 2 different sectors. So, in this sector they are enjoying this common facility. You can see the open space and the school and all this plot, and this particular sector they are enjoying some common facilities in this side, and here also some common facilities are given. And apart from the common facility at this sector, every neighborhood is enjoying their own open space. In some cases they are having the water bodies and the primary school and some of the commercial areas. Therefore, you can understand that how the facilities and the plotting can be done at every level. Here also you can see the hierarchy of the different levels of the planning. Similarly, how you can see, now here you see that these are the bigger plots given for the high rise buildings, and this is the smaller plots given for the low rise building. So, concept is that we can go for this we discussed last day also, that concept is that in the periphery we are having higher building, and in the inside we can have low storied buildings, so that we can have maximum light ventilation and wind passing, and also visual penetration and visual accessibility can be there. So, considering this kind of urban design concept also can be applied, so that bigger plots can be put in the periphery and smaller plots can be put in the center. So, that is the psychology or the approach we can adopt. This is another plotted development. Again you can see similarly the larger plots are given for the group housing. These are the larger plots, these are also larger plots. Some of the plots are given for commercial areas, and you can see various individual plots having connected green areas. So, this arrangement of the green areas, whether it is the isolated green like we showed in the earlier pictures, or it is the connected green, it depends on the concept of the whole development or the ideology of the whole development, whether what type of urban design concept is considered. But apart from that, you can find out that this is one neighborhood, this is another neighborhood, and this is another neighborhood having enjoying their common green areas and facility, that is more or less same for each type of plotted development, but definitely you can find different kind of hierarchies of roads. This is the wider road, this is the wider road, and this is the narrower road, and hierarchy of the facilities. This is the common facilities at the sector level, these are the facilities at the neighborhood level, and green areas, hierarchy of the green areas, you can see the major green areas at the sector level and the sub green areas at the neighborhood level, and smaller patches of the green at every cluster. So, if this is a cluster, this is a cluster, these green areas can be utilized by this many plots, this type of green areas can be utilized by this many plots. So, though each and every cluster cannot be differentiated clearly, but you will find a variety and hierarchy of open space, road and all the facilities very clearly in this layout. That defines the plot subdivision mechanism of a new areas. So, next day we will discuss a few more elements of the housing strategy. So, today we discussed the housing strategy for the new area. We told that the housing strategy for the new areas are completely different with the housing strategy with the existing built up area. In the existing built up area, we basically augment the infrastructure and we redensify or dedensify the infrastructure, whereas in the new areas we earmark each and every pocket of the housing development based on the housing typology and the housing strategy like cooperative housing, plotted housing, group housing, rental housing, institutional housing, and based on that we decide on the type of the development, the size of the plot, module of the plot, and we subdivide the plot as per the levels of planning, and the levels of plannings are defined as per the common facilities shared at different level like the house level or building level, cluster level, neighborhood level and sector level. So, based on that we can design the building the housing pockets like in group housing or plotted housing, and also we have seen few examples to understand and appreciate that how in a land subdivision various hierarchies are maintained for the road, for the open space, recreational open space, and for the community facilities as at different level. Having said that, next day we will cover few other specialized area in terms or some cases for the housing strategy. So, today we have completed the strategy for the new areas and the core areas. So, for today thank you for attending this lecture.